Hi, I'm Darlene Carman, and welcome to the show. For the past 7 years, David Mejia has drawn caricature portraits for public festivals and private events or by commission. I was captivated to watch him sketch my husband Doug and thought you would like to see him work as well. So welcome to the show.
It's good to be here, Darlene.
I really appreciate that you're able to work and talk at the same time. That's very helpful here.
It does, helps a lot. Yeah.
So what medium are you using for this portrait?
I'm starting off with a Copic pen, and then I'm moving on to watercolor, gouache, ink, and then watercolor and gouache.
That first one is a what pen?
Copic markers.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little like a Sharpie, but it's thinner and it doesn't give me a headache.
Ah, great. Great. So, you do a lot of events. So we said like 7 years you've been doing this now. Let's say you have a really good event. How many portraits would you expect to do like in one day?
It's hard to say. I think maybe about 30, 40, sometimes 60 if I'm like on a really good, like burn, just churning them out like crazy.
So you have people standing in line and waiting.
Yeah, yeah.
Around the corner.
Yeah, that increases the intensity of it, which I actually kind of like. Yeah.
So your busy times, would that be public events or more private events?
The busy.
Yeah,
it's usually the private events that can get that more often than not they'll usually be extremely busy because it's already been paid for by whoever's hiring me, so everyone's getting a free caricature. So that's when the people line up and and it's a private party, so everyone's usually inebriated and happy, and they're just joking and having a great time, and it's pretty intense. The public events, it's usually the comic conventions where it gets really big because superheroes are a big thing right now, and everyone wants to be like Spawn, or not Spawn, but Deadpool or Batman or Wonder Woman. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, also I would imagine that the public events, a lot of them are surprised. They're just walking along up and down the rows, and then they see you, and it's like, oh. Then they probably watch you for a while, right? That's the way it goes.
Exactly, yeah.
You hear the heavy breathing.
I just feel the presence. Sometimes it's just paranoid. There's no one actually there. I'm just.
Now, I would imagine that it's more men than women that want to have their caricatures done. Is that so?
Once the event gets started, once it really gets going, it's pretty equal. But in the beginning, it's usually women. They drag their boyfriends over. Oh, we should totally do this. And the guy's like, and then once everything like loosens up, then everybody wants it.
Yeah. I bet.
Yeah, it's just it's the typical roles people play into.
Now, I bet kids, you do get children, of course, and they like to squirm around a lot. So do you have any techniques to calm them down so you can work and do them?
I usually leave that up to the parent because, kids don't like the real squirmy ones, and they are rare. The real squirmy kids, they're not going to listen to me. Most kids, they cooperate. If it's a real squirmy kid, my technique is to start with the kid and just go really fast. Just get it in, get it out. And, sometimes people will want like a family picture, and there's one squirmy kid. I finish the kid up first, and then I move on to the family. And
Interesting.
Do a nice job with them.
Do the kid first, tell him to get out of the way.
Right, right.
What about pets? Do you ever get pets?
Same thing with the squirmy kids. The pets don't really understand art. They're animals, basically. They don't have that aesthetic sense, so I draw them really fast, and a lot of it is, over here, boy, over here, come on, because you got to look in one direction for the most part.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids, a lot of people going through there. Do you have I imagine everybody loves your work, but have you ever gotten that one that doesn't like their picture? They look at it and they go, my nose isn't like that, or whatever.
It happens every now and then. I just, I go through it. It hurts a little, but I've been doing this for 7 years. It's like okay, people. It's such a subjective process. I'm really not worried about it anymore. I just move on. It's like okay, sorry, But it happens once in a while, and I do try and accommodate. Most of the time, though, people are pretty surprised and pleased with what I do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, well, you would just say, oh, it's a freebie or no charge, or, well, of course, you don't want to say that because then everybody would say they do.
Well, most people don't. They usually like what I do.
Yeah, that's
So,
what I
I
thought.
mean, I did have an instance that happened recently where there's two people they didn't like it,
Oh,
and I just said like, oh well, okay, sorry, you don't have to pay for it then. And they don't get to keep it either.
oh, sure,
Yeah,
sure,
because
sure.
but
Mm.
yeah, I just that doesn't really faze me much anymore. I
Hmm.
was more sensitive about that when I started. I'd go home and cry or something.
That first
But after a
time
while,
must have been really scary for you. Your very first event
hmm
do you remember it?
my very first
Mm-hmm.
event was I was barely ready before I got hit with a big line. It was my first time trying it over in downtown San Jose at the Sub-Zero Festival,
Oh, yes.
or one of the street market festivals, excuse me. And before it was a fluke. I just decided to draw patrons, just draw them. And I was doing a very realistic style. And before I was even set up, I had this line of people.
Wow.
And so that was unusual. It's like, wow, people will pay me to draw. I kind of wish I'd started this a bit earlier. Yeah. But yeah, I went with it. I realized, okay, I don't have to get a second job at Starbucks or anything. I can just this will be my second job.
So this is like full time for you,
This is
more or less.
part-time, but it does take up, I think, about 3/4 of my life. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of it is preparation. You know, a lot of it is getting ready for each event. And then the actual event, I'm just kind of like you just kind of rush right through it. And then you take everything home, you break it down. There's a lot of prep, a lot of,
Mhm.
yeah, that.
What about like when you start something? Let's say, of course, it never happens, I'm sure. But let's say you start and it's just something's not off. I mean, it's just not right. It's just like something's bothering you.
hmm
Have you been known to like just kind of like gently tear it off and start again without saying anything?
Very rarely.
Very
I
rarely.
very rarely do that. I've gotten into the habit of just going with it, like
Oh, making it work.
making it work, working with any mistakes. Every once in a while, something's like way off, like there's no way that I can, like that nose is just way too short. There's no way that I can fake this into making it look like them. I'll very gently just kind of put it away and put up the next one, you know. And I try to catch that early on. I don't want to get halfway done, and then do that because time is an issue. I don't want to keep. I usually get a line of people, and I don't
Oh,
want to.
yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to waste time.
Well, your style, it doesn't seem like you over exaggerate people's features.
hmm
It's not like political cartoons that we
Right.
see. You seem to not really emphasize the very, very, I guess, obvious exaggerations maybe that people have. Is there any criteria that you have in your mind that you make judgments? Of course, you can't talk to the people about. You can't say, "Do you want that big mole that's a half inch?"
Beauty mark.
Yes, beauty mark, beauty mark. Better word.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you discuss anything with them, or you've never
Only
had
if it's
to?
something really obvious, like a beauty mark. I mean, I happen to love beauty marks. Um, but yeah, every once in a while, if it's something kind of odd, like they have a bunch of beauty marks. Do you want your beauty marks all over? Otherwise, I'll usually I'll assume that everyone wants to look good.
Right.
Yeah, and I won't even bother asking because I want to bring that up. Say, oh, do you
Yeah.
want that large scab on your face? And put them on the spot. There's a certain decorum you got to keep up all the time.
That was another question I had is like do you want to compliment people? In other words, make them look better than they really do. Is that one of your things that you do?
That goes with it. That's like, it's almost a no-brainer because like every people always a lot of it's usually women. Um, they tell me, "Oh, make me look better." You know, absolutely, of course. You know, I usually don't say that. It's like, well, yeah, of course, we all know you're ugly. You know, I say, you are beautiful, and I will attempt to capture your beauty. You know,
And you're laughing, of course, all the while.
absolutely. Inside, keep that to myself.
We got about
Yeah.
maybe a minute or so left here. So if I don't have a nose, I can't see what you're doing. Did you start, well, I didn't see what you did. Everybody else did, but did you start with the eyes?
I
Is that,
actually start with the top of the head, and I move down.
and you move down.
I used to start with the eyes, and that would, I wasn't able to control the scale. I'd end up with this gigantic
Yes.
picture then I could. So when I started with the head, I was able to like sort of map it out ahead of time. I don't know how, it worked out that way after a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see your point there because, you know, anybody that's done any drawings at all, that's easy to happen. So I can see where you just want to. How are we doing? Are we about?
Done.
Wow, very
Yep.
good. Well, let's move on. Let's move on. I'd like to see some of your regular work here. And
Absolutely.
you're really fast. I didn't even, it just went by so quickly.
Would you like to see it?
Sure. Wow, amazing, amazing. Even the top, that's super. Do you want to put it down here?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Let's see some of your work. Now,
Okay.
you've been doing art since you were like 4 years old. Why do you paint? And how do you foster art in your life?
Well, I paint because it's something that that my mother and my uncle always encouraged. My uncle was an artist in the San Jose area, and my mother was she's artistically inclined, but she never actually did art herself. She mostly focused on family, but they always encouraged art, and so I was always, at first it was just kind of sketching, you know, just kind of messing around, just like doodles, and I was always being complimented by other people, so I kind of knew that I had an
Talent.
ability.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I was 12 that I really got more serious into it. At that time, I got really big into Charles Schulz and comics and
Yes.
things like that, and I started drawing more often. And then by the time I was 21 was when I started doing it all the time. So the older I got, the more heavier into it I got.
And
Yeah.
what are you doing to keep fostering it in your life? I mean, obviously you're doing it, you say part-time, but it sounds more than that to me. It sounds like it's really in you.
Well, I've worked it into my life to where, well, obviously because it's a business now for me,
Right.
that's when I started doing it even more than ever when I was 34, about 7 years ago, because I wanted to get really good. I figured if I'm going to do this, if I'm gonna draw people at events and things like that, I want to practice every day. So I got kind of fanatical about it. I would practice 2 hours every day.
Wow.
Yeah, and yeah, at nighttime I would just like get on the internet, find faces, and just see how fast I can do, and just kept doing that, doing it till I like stacks of pictures.
And you weren't that picky. I know with me, when I was doing some portraits, if the face didn't intrigue me, I kind of got bored with it. And I mean, the face had to be really interesting for me to be interested in. You're not like that. You can just, your eyes just see, and you could just take any face. It doesn't have to excite you. It just, you're just following along and capturing it. Is that it?
Yeah, oddly enough, the more the less perfect a person is, the more interesting the picture actually is.
Right.
The more character they have. It's the people that are most beautiful and perfect that it's actually more challenging because there's not much there's not as much character, I should say. It's imperfections that are more interesting. There's more character comes out of it.
Yes. That's an idea.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at some of your work here. What is the impetus behind this painting right here?
So this one right here is, the setting is, these are the separatist pilgrims, you know, from the Mayflower and Plymouth colony. what I'm depicting here is the religious repression that they were experiencing in England back in the 1600s. This is part of a series that I'm working on currently all this summer for a display I'm going to be having over at the Martin Luther King Library, where I also happen to work. The theme is the background behind Thanksgiving, both the story before the actual Thanksgiving dinner and then in the aftermath. And so I really wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of like what kind of hardships both the English and the Indians were dealing with.
Where'd you get the people?
A lot of this is searching through the internet. First, like sketching first reading, actually, doing a lot of research, then going and sketching how I want to frame it, and then going all through the internet, researching body poses, outfits, architecture, and it's a lengthy process for historical painting. And then once I got all together, then I just do what I'm doing here, but a little bit slower, a little bit more elaborate,
So tell us a little bit more about the process that you go through for a painting.
Okay, so for example, this one right here, this one's called Carnanos. And what I'm depicting here is, well, it's a Celtic mythic character. So the process, what I'm doing here is first I found a picture, this relief sculpture it was like an old Celtic burial from ancient Europe, which actually featured Caranos, and like he had a deer on one side, he was holding a torque, and he had a snake in another hand. And I took that and I said, I want to make that into something like update it for the modern time. So I then went through the internet and I found different images, like same thing here, that I liked, but kind of give it a modern feel or a realistic feel. Like I found like a Siberian shaman, which they would have had shamans in Celtic Europe at that time.
Absolutely.
I found all the kind of paraphernalia, like there's a lot of torques, all those like ring items. Those are religious icons that you found in ancient Europe during the Celtic time period. I found interesting elk that was howling, and I put it all together, including the background, just tons and tons of research. And I started with a very elaborate. These are a little bit more. I take more time doing these than I do with these, than I do with the caricatures.
So much detail.
Right.
Yeah. Now, what about this one? Are all of these surrealism? Is that, or this one is for sure?
That one's definitely surrealism. These are both surrealism.
Okay. So this one here?
Yeah, that one was for a series of, that was for a show I had at Collide Gallery. The theme was shamanism. And so, yeah, basically what I'm doing here is I'm featuring the shaman, and he's in the underworld, and he's having this interesting vision. He's like tripping out. And
we have to move on.
Okay.
We're getting a little short of time here. This one here, you told me this is realism.
This is real. This is my friend and my wife over in downtown San Jose in front of a cafe. And I just drew what was there.
Okay.
Exactly what was there.
And
painted.
this one?
That was part of the shaman series also.
Okay.
Yeah, features a shaman, and he's decked out, has a vision, has snakes.
So we have a few more pictures. Let's see. What about?
Yeah. So this is the. Well, what we're seeing here is the shaman image again.
So we're going to move on to the last 5.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. So this was an Aztec painting I did for an Aztec show. One of the festivals I did was the Aztec New Year Festival, and I had like a whole bunch of series of paintings like this, and people would come into my booth. I draw your face, and I draw you in Aztec regalia in full color.
And next?
Next.
The next one? Yeah.
And this is Alice Cooper as Dustin Hoffman's character in Hook with one of the Muppet Show chickens. And this is what I do at like a Renaissance festival or a pirate festival. I could depict you like that.
That's super. And next?
Yeah, and the next one is, that's typically what I do at an event. I draw portraits. This is Jimi Hendrix. This is just to give you an example of like the simple black and whites that I do. I churn those out pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And next?
And the next one is, this is a Hopi dancer with, he's got snakes in his mouth. This one I took from a photograph, and this is part of a series I have displayed at Neologian Gallery in Redwood City that I had at a recent show.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's it?
And then this
One
one is, this is my friend Xana Wygant. I had her meet me at downtown San Jose, Christmas in the Park. I said, I want to draw a beautiful girl in a beautiful setting downtown San Jose's Christmas in the Park. I just want to put it together, just make a series like this.
Well, these are great.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're ready to start again if you are.
Absolutely, let's get going.
Our crew family was so excited to find out that you're going to be on, and everybody, of course, would love to have their portrait done. But we can't do everybody, so we asked Brenna here, hi Brenna, to join us.
Hello.
And she got lucky.
All right, let's get going then.
So this is Brenna. So I was wondering now about having your work. Can people take your drawings that you do for them and then put them on T-shirts or other things like that?
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, I would just, yeah, absolutely. That's something that they can do if they like to. I usually keep the rights of the, like any kind of gallery work that I had, but yeah, I love seeing my work on T-shirts as well.
So they don't really have to, I mean, if they buy the work, are they free to do that, or it's
Yeah.
a gray area?
Yeah, usually,
or?
for like the simple ones, it's these ones, like the more elaborate ones, I'd probably, get into, like, try, copyright. I try to negotiate how we're going to do that.
Yeah. Well, tell us about your gallery showings. Now, I know you've had a few, so tell us about those.
Okay, well, like I said, I have a show coming up in October from September through November. And the theme is Thanksgiving, the first Thanksgiving. That's going to be at the Martin Luther King Library. And another show I have is over at Neologian Gallery. The theme is reptiles, and so I did a series of paintings with a snake theme. And previously at Collide Gallery, I had a show about shamanism and the shaman's journey.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I would like that one. So it's hard to find time for that, plus your festivals that you do. But
that can turn into real crunch time. I'm going through that right now, working on a show, and I'm about to do a lot of festivals, starting this weekend, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
where are you going to be this weekend?
I'm going to be at the San Jose Renaissance Festival.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's fun. I've been there before.
Do a lot of Ren
yes.
fairs.
It's just so much. You get to dress up. Oh, so much fun.
I have to dress out too.
Well, the thing is, the clothes that they wear, it's hot, and they wear these velvets and things like this, all the clothes that they put on. I do admire that because it's very, very hot to go to the Renaissance fairs, but they get into it, They
Yeah,
just,
yeah. It's a
like
long
fun.
tradition. It's a lot of fun. My wife
Yeah.
got me into it. I was like uncertain about it at first, and then again, it was really successful. So I said, "Oh, I'm going to keep doing this." So
Yeah.
thank goodness for my wife.
So how many pieces do you get to show at your gallery? This one coming up at the library?
I'm going to do a series of 18, probably 18 or 19.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's going to be on the fourth floor
Fourth floor.
of the MLK Martin Luther King Library.
And it would be, are you having a reception, or is it open during the regular hours?
I'm not going to have a reception. I thought a lot about that. I really can't spare the time just because of everything else that I'm doing. But it's free for anyone to come and walk in during the regular library hours. Yeah. And that's, it's open most of the time. It's just Sundays it's not open, like in the middle of the day, like in the beginning of the day. But it's open most of the time.
You know, my husband just got finished with the races there in Sonoma, drag races, and he saw a lot of art there, but he didn't see any art like what you do of the famous race drivers.
Oh.
And he was wondering if that would be a good fit for you. Have
Race
you ever thought about
driving?
that? Yeah.
It would, I usually, for my work, it tends to work better if the theme is actually art. You know, I mean, I think at a race driving event, the theme is probably going to be race driving itself. It'd be cool. I think at an event like that, I'd love to go and actually draw the race drivers themselves.
Well, that's
But-
what he was thinking, because
Like as they're racing.
yeah, they had art, but they didn't have anything of the race drivers, and they gave away posters of themselves. But it wasn't the same thing. So he was thinking that would, he thinks that they were just buying up everything that they could buy up. So he was thinking somehow maybe negotiate with the vendors, or however that works. I don't know. So
A lot of negotiation involved with setting up for events and vending and whatnot.
yes, you have to
Yeah.
do everything. You have to go to the events, set them up.
Yeah, and I usually don't have volunteers. Most people at events, they have a lot of volunteers. It's just me for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like,
It's funny when whenever someone wants to help me out, it's kind of strange, 'cause I'm used to doing it alone, so I have to like coordinate people and set up at the same time, and it's like, I guess it's better. You can get things set up much quicker and better that way.
yeah.
But that's the nature of vending itself, you know. Usually you have a big crew, from what I've seen with a lot of different vendors.
Well, see, it's not so bad sitting there, right? Our time is just about up, but you know, you're probably not quite finished, which is fine, because we're just going to keep on working here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for watching the show, and keep watching, because we're just going to keep working here and visiting. So thanks for watching the show, and watch again. So we'll just keep working here, and we want to make sure that you have a mouth along with the nose. He says he starts at the top, so.
I think he's done with that part. I think he's coloring it.
Wow.